Righto, the hunting's over, the shooting's over, whatever you want to call it. The rifle's been put away. A little bit of WD sprayed on it before it was put in the silicone sock. Well, that's at least what I do. Now it's time to give them a clean so they serve you well for not only the next time you use them, but for many years to come. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the methods that I use and some of the products I use to clean my rifles and to get the best accuracy and make them the most reliable I possibly can. So first of all, good products is always going to be a bonus. So you can't clean your rifle without a good cleaning rod. Now, for starters, you're going to clean your rifle and you want to get the best out of it. Forget these 2, 3, 4-piece rods. Buy a good 1-piece rod. This one here I think is a Pro Shot. The other one of my favourite brand is the Deweys. That one actually I think is for my 20 cal, my 204. This rod here will do anything from the sort of 7mm upwards, and you want to make sure that your jag, in this case what I've got on here now, is suited perfectly for your rifle. Now this one, in this case, I'm going to clean the Tikka, the 7mm today. So I've got the 7mm jag on here, and what I do like about these is the way they finish. There is no bump in between here, and the most important thing is that you don't damage your rifling, whether it be at the start of the chamber or at the crown of the barrel. So you need to protect this as much as you possibly can. So moving on, how do you protect your chamber and the start of your rifling? The best way to do that is to buy good bore guides. Now, there's heaps of different brands. I actually like the Possum Hollow. They're custom made bore guide. They're actually made to suit the action. They've got a good O-ring sealing, and they're actually set up for each individual caliber. I'm not sure if they're so easy to get in Australia anymore, but yeah, one of my favourites, and they're reasonably priced. So basically it's just a matter of taking the bolt out, putting that in, and you're good to start. So the first thing I like to do is get rid of all the carbon, all the gunpowder fouling and dirt, which is going to be the black stuff basically. Now a lot of people might already know that I do use this stuff. It's readily available. The Nulon, what is it? Air Intake Cleaner, foaming. So basically all I do with this, give it a good shake, and I put it in from both ends, go in straight back here in the chamber end, and it does do exactly that. It foams up. Obviously you want to protect your stock a little bit. And I'll do the same on here. Now, simple as that. I'll leave that in there for a couple of minutes. And in this case, what I will do straight up is I'll actually just patch out. Now that's another thing that you want to make sure that you got the right size patches. Now I'm a little bit lazy and I actually just buy them, again from Dewey. You can buy direct from their online store, and I find that they're fantastic. I prefer the round patches, but look, as long as they're the right size to suit your rifle, that's all that matters. So straight up, I'll put that in just for a couple of minutes, and I'll basically patch it straight out. It's a nice steady push. All right. Now, the rifle's only probably fired half a dozen rounds when I was away last, so it's not too bad. But either way, whether it's fired half a dozen rounds or whether it's fired 20, 30, 40, 50 rounds, should use the same procedures, same methods, but you're probably just going to find you're going to have to do it for a little bit longer. So I'll give that another spray in there now. Not as much this time. Making sure I protect that. Now don't be scared to put a bit in there, because I tell you, it's not going to hurt. That stuff is fantastic. There's been heaps of different brands of this over the years that I've used, and in all fairness I found that this one's most readily available. In Australia you can buy it from Autobarn, super cheap, wherever. So the Nulon Air Intake Cleaner Foaming. Now once I've done that, the next step is I'll actually just put a nylon brush, not a bronze brush. I have bronze brushes, but I don't tend to use them unless I absolutely have to. Some of my older rifles, I had an older Seiko L579, which was a real mongrel for fouling, and I had to put a bronze brush onto that. It shot straight, but yeah, really had to give it a good scrub. So now what I like to do is not only just do a couple of straight strokes, but I like to just go backward and forward at the start of the chamber, probably at least a dozen times, and then just push through. You just want to short stroke it basically. The whole idea of that is to try and eliminate that build-up of carbon which creates like a ring around the start of the rifling and can harden, super harden, and basically reduce the life of your accuracy of the barrel. So once that's done, give her a bit of a clean up. Alright, and you can take the bronze brush off at this stage, because now I'm going to patch that out again after disturbing it all. So I'll grab another patch, bring it over here. Whack your patch on and straight through. Now again, you can see there's a lot of solution. The rifle isn't that dirty at this stage, but either way, at least when you've finished doing this, you know it's good to go next time you're out. And that's what it's about. Nothing worse than being away for a month or a few weeks. Your rifle's been shooting well, you've done everything, you've got home, you're a bit lazy. There's a little bit of moisture on that rifle that you didn't see, you didn't know about. You take it out of the bag next time, and what do you find? Corrosion. Besides dust and whatever, corrosion is a rifle's worst enemy. And it's basically like a cancer. Once it's in there, it's going to be very hard to remove. So try and avoid situations like that. Don't mollycoddle your rifle. It's got to be used. It's got to be used as a tool. But if you look after it by oiling it, cleaning it, it'll always serve you well. All right, now, if it's still coming out dirty after a couple of them, I'll do it again. And it's cheap enough. I think it's about 15 bucks a can, so just spray it in there. It's not going to hurt anything. So now this time, I'll actually leave it in there for 15 minutes. Put my trusty VB timer on for 15 minutes, and we will walk away. Right, now 15 minutes is up. I'm just going to put another patch on here. You'll notice I'm wearing my glasses because I've been known to put 2 patches on the top without them, and yeah, it doesn't end well. Now you might also notice that I've got my scope cover on. Now when you're poking rods into the back of your chamber here, the last thing you want to be doing is hitting the back of your glass on your scope. So it pays to have some form of protection on your scope. So I'm just going to patch that out. There's just a little bit of darkness there now. If I wanted to, I could scrub that a little bit more, but I don't think it needs to be done at this stage. Now I'm going to move on to the copper removal, which is basically what's left behind from your projectile in the rifling as it travels down the barrel. Now I've tried different products over the years, and I'm ended up now loving this stuff, the Wipeout Patch Out. A little bit hard to get, but it's really, really good. For years I used Sweets. It's great stuff, stinks to high heaven, but is also very detrimental to your barrel if you forget to remove, or you don't remove every bit of it. So a little bit of this. Don't be afraid to drip, as long as you don't drip it in places you don't want it to drip. That's why I'm out in my shed, my man cave, and I don't have to worry about that so much. So I'm going to put this on, All right, just gently down the barrel. Now when I get to the end, I actually put a little bit more down at this end now. Give it a good soaking. And then just come back just a few times. You basically just want to create a coating on the rifling. Now once I've done that, I actually remove this now. Now I've gone back to my bristle brush. It's a good name, isn't it? Bristle brush. Can make a cartoon character out of that. And again, I'm going to put this on quite liberally. I'm going to go work it through to the end. Put a little bit more on again. More on for a moron. And then I'm just going to work it slow and steady, backward and forward. A lot of people say you don't need to do this with this stuff, but I don't think it hurts. And the bronze brush, sorry, not the bronze brush, what do they call them? Plastic brush, I'll call it. If I can get this over the end, I'm just going to go backward and forward this a fair few times. Now what you want to do is just make sure that your brush isn't untwisted out of the threads as you're doing this, because it will happen. Now, a lot of guys will go hammer and tong on this, go flat out. Now, if you clean your rifles regularly, I don't think you need to do this. But a lot of guys will tell you that it doesn't hurt to actually go a little bit faster just to create like a foaming effect of whatever solution you use. And yeah, that's not a bad idea either. But you tend to feel where the tight spots are, if any. This is reasonably new barrels and it's been looked after, so it should be pretty good. Well, actually I know it's good, it shoots like a tack driver. So yeah, I'll just do that probably 20, maybe 30 times. Give it a bit of a wipe off. And now I'll go back to my Jag and just patch that out. Just to get an idea of what colour we've got in there, if any. Now, if there was any copper residue left in there, there would be a little bit of blue to this. Sometimes, look, that black, you might think, oh, it's still dirty. Well, it's actually just the solution in the barrel. It's not really what I would class as dirty. It's not perfectly clean as yet, but it's, if you think you're going to come out with a completely white cloth with putting any solution in there, you're going to be going for a long time. But I'll just patch that out once more. And if anything, there's a little bit, I don't know if that'll pick that up, there's a little bit of blue on there, but it's pretty good. Like I said, it's probably only had half a dozen shots. This is being more clean just now to store it and be ready for the next trip. And basically, like I said, just to inspect the rifle to make sure that there's no signs of anywhere that you usually can see if there's been any water or anything like that. You usually see little circles or anything like that that will give it away. So at the moment I'm obviously just cleaning the barrel. In a minute I'll go on to cleaning the rifle completely. That now is getting pretty good. Now, one thing that I would do if I was using sweets or any of the more sort of corrosive sort of or aggressive sort of agents, I would finish off with 1 or possibly 2 patches just of metho. Just a little bit on there just to soak the cloth. So I've just put the metho through it now just to get rid of any remnants of any other solutions that may be left in there. I've found that that's worked quite well. It's not necessary. A lot of people would say you don't need to do it, but I don't think it hurts. It evaporates on itself. Now if I was going to shoot the rifle in the next week or so, that's where I would leave it as far as the barrel goes, the inside of the barrel, the rifling. But now I know I'm going to store this rifle for a little while, so what I'm going to do is actually pull the bore guide out in a second, and I'm not only going to put a little bit of oil into the chamber, I'm going to put a little bit of this Easox, which is like water, but it's very, very good. And something I've used probably for the last, probably 5 or 10 years. So, like I said, I'll pull that bore guide out. And now I'll just go, you just got to be careful. Make sure you find the rifling, make sure your rod's aligned properly, and just push down through there nicely. Now really, that is all you should need to do to that barrel. Okay, so we've finished cleaning the rifling, the inside of the barrel. It's time to move on to the bolt. Now in this case, this bolt is pretty much new. It's only fired probably maybe 40 or 50 shots and been cleaned 4 or 5 times in that time. But I still go through the same procedure, and always as a visual inspection, look at the bolt face and basically a light oiling. In this case, I'm just using a little bit more of the Easox. Each rifle will probably determine how much oil and that you put on these, depending on the conditions you're going to hunt in. Obviously, if you're in a real dusty environment, you don't want to put too much oil in it because it's just going to become like an attractant for that dust. Sounds a little bit silly, but a light, thin oil, and that's one of the reasons I use this Easox. Militech was another good oil that I'd find. It was a little bit heavier. But one thing that I do is I actually move on to something a little bit different. A lot of people won't do this. But if you're a hand loader especially, your bolt handle, the bolt drop gives you a really good indication of how your sizing is going, how you're setting up your dies or whatever. If your bolt handle is firm to drop, in other words, harder than it would be if you didn't have a round in there, there's a good chance that you're starting to gouge the back of your locking lugs and your bolt. So if this does happen and you've got no real lubricant, no real protection on there, you're really affecting the longevity of that rifle. So I tend to use a little bit of copper anti-seize, which can be purchased from just about any bearing supplies. And I say a little bit, you only need a little bit. And basically that will just give you a little bit of protection. We've done the barrel, we've done the bolt. The last thing is just a bit of a visual inspection of your magazine. Plastic magazine in this case. Just check your there's no binding at all in the spring in the mag carrier. If you look, you'll soon know. If you've had problems with your loads feeding on whatever, always look at your magazine. Double check that it's okay. So in this case, again, it's pretty clean. A light rub over, she's good to go. So then we come to the outside of the rifle. Now obviously this rifle's not probably going to be as common as most. It's got a carbon fibre stock. But what I tend to use is just a Chucks, WD-40, Inox, Easox, any of the oxes. Just a light spray onto the Chucks and give her a wipe over. Right, start from one end, work your way through. And this is the advantage of having a free floated barrel. You can get right under it, and if you move it backward and forward, sometimes you will find that not only puts the oil on there, it also gets any debris that's got stuck under there. So just a quick rub over, to be honest with you. Just look for any visual problems. You don't want to start seeing that corrosion in spots that you didn't anticipate. It's not a nice feeling. So basically, look, if it's a timber stock, you can actually buy different brands of protection and oils and whatever. Look, in all fairness, I've never really worried about it. Most of them, any oil's better than no oil. Just make sure that it's not going to affect your stock. Most of them, like I said, the WDs and that, you won't have any problem. But you want to probably wipe it dry at the end. Look, a lot of stocks get quite hungry, timber stocks that is. You may have to put some particular purpose-made oil, which are available. Like I said, I don't know much about them, I don't use them. Now when you come to your cleaning your scope, the less touching of the optics the better. The glass, that is, just a general wipe over. Usually I'll do it again with just a light coating of oil. Then at the end I'll probably wipe it dry with just the chucks again. If you do have to clean your optics, if they are looking dirty, the glass that is, look, again, less is more. A little bit of, if you've got a hand puffer or whatever, the camera hand puffer, just to blow the dust off from that first. Then use a right cloth. If it's really bad, look, saliva, a bit of spit is never hurt. It's never going to hurt your optics. Don't use these aerosol cans of air, because sometimes the propellant will squirt out a little bit and it will get onto the coatings and possibly damage the coatings of your optics. So again, less is more. Keep it simple. At the end I would probably just use a dry cloth, go over the rifle, get all the excess oil off, put it in the silicone sock, and you're good to go for your next hunting trip.